Come on. Bit of a chat about alcohol while sipping on a cup of herbal tea. If you're new here, this is the first time watching one of my videos, my name's John and I've been living in my car in Australia for almost 6 months now, and started making a few videos and uploaded them on YouTube over a month ago now. I know what my experiences are like and whether it's safe and how I sleep and just general day-to-day stuff. And a lot of the comments that I was getting on those first few videos were basically like, good luck, man, but you really need to give up the drinking. One person said, you have a disease called alcoholism, and have you ever thought that maybe that's the reason why you're in a bit of a pickle and can't dig yourself out of it? And this is not the first time I've been in a bit of a pickle, but this is the first time I've ended up in my car. And I'm not really going to go into the reasons why I ended up in my car. I'll do that in another video. I've kind of touched on it before, but it's not really what I want this video to be about. But living in a dual cab ute for 6 months is definitely challenging, and for quite a while there it was pretty horrible. Like the first few weeks or the first couple of months were pretty bad. I didn't have a huge amount of hope for what the future held, and everything was just horrible, and I was drinking heaps, and that definitely wasn't helping. And living in such a small space and trying to overcome or just navigate day-to-day challenges is definitely harder when you're drinking. But pretty much I was just drinking just to numb out the fact that everything was super difficult and I really didn't know what to do with myself. So it was kind of like, it's always a pattern, it's always a bit of a cycle. Like, you get yourself into a hole and you drink to make yourself feel better, and then that makes things worse, and then you dig yourself further into the hole. So that's kind of where I was at, and people started bringing it up on the videos. Yeah, I just kind of got to the point after a while where I was just sick of being drunk, and I was sick of being hungover, and I was just sick of ruining my day because I didn't have enough motivation or like energy to do anything. So it just kind of stopped. I wanted to make a video on the 1 month, but it's kind of gone past that. 1 month was last Friday, and today's the following Friday. So as of today, I think I'm up to about 38 days without any booze. Apart from the tiramisu that I had the other day, I think that might have a little bit of alcohol in it, but we're not counting that because that's a treat. This one's a little bit trickier to talk about because I don't have a huge social life. And I've said in previous videos that I'm a massive introvert, and it's not really true. I'm not a massive introvert. I just I don't have a huge tribe. I don't have any tribe at all, really. I've got a few good friends around the place, but I'm not much of a social butterfly. I don't have time for small talk. In fact, I hate small talk, especially with strangers. Yeah, I don't really have much of a crew down in Melbourne. Most of my friends and family are spread all over the place. I have a sister and a niece and a nephew down here. Well, my nephew's disappeared off to the mines. Bless his cotton socks. But yeah, it's pretty much just me. So yeah, so social life and relationships hasn't really changed a huge amount. The only thing that I've kind of noted down was that I'm slightly more open to small talk at the gym with, because sometimes we get paired up with buddies at the gym and there's all the like slapping hands and like, yeah, you've done well, man, yeah, just all that sort of like blokey stuff, which I just kind of play along with, but it's not really me. And then yeah, just so a little bit more open to that sort of stuff, but mostly it's just me and dogs the last few months, and that's kind of cool. This is also another tricky one to talk about because it came to buying booze, like unless I had $0 in the bank and physically couldn't buy any booze, I always found a way. Sometimes I would just buy a sandwich to eat all day, and then spend 20 or 30 bucks on, I don't know, like a few cans, like a 6-pack or whatever I could get for under 30 bucks. And, you know, if you're drinking every day, I don't know if it's the same for anybody else, but your appetite kind of disappears a little bit. So I kind of went from eating 3 meals a day to eating 2 meals a day to being happy if I just had one, and even if it was just a sandwich, I was kind of cool. And you know, I'd wake up hungry the next morning, but I didn't really care. I knew that as soon as it got around to about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was going to want to start drinking again, and pretty much just drink until I went to sleep. And I didn't really care too much about food. Maybe a couple of bananas in the morning, but mostly I was just spending my money on booze, really. And don't ask me where the money came from, because there definitely wasn't much money coming in. But I was always finding a few bucks here and there to kind of put together to spend on booze. So yeah, so money wise, I'm definitely got more money in my pockets. If you're drinking beer, it's definitely cheaper to buy a case. But if you buy a case, then you've got a case of beer to drink. But if you just buy a 6-pack, then you've kind of limited yourself to just 6 cans that night. So that's kind of what I was doing, and it's more expensive to do it that way. So yeah, so don't do that. It's cheaper to buy a case. Definitely feel calmer and less stressed, less of a psycho when I'm driving on the road. Like there's less road rage, less jumpy. I'm a pretty jumpy person because I drink too much caffeine, but you know, you add booze on top of that and hangovers and stuff, and just a jumpy mess. And it's not really fun, and I kind of haven't been like that very much over the last month, so that's a good thing to disappear. And it says here, alcohol increases the stress hormone cortisol, but the resulting increase in cortisol can actually worsen stress and anxiety, potentially leading to a cycle of dependence. And that's definitely how it works with me. I don't know if it's like that with anybody else, but yeah, you drink to make yourself feel different, and then that just increases how you were feeling before, and nothing ever gets fixed, and it becomes a cycle or a pattern. It's really bad. So belly fat and moobs. I'm not a big guy. I'm not a fat guy, but for quite a few years I've always had a bit of a round belly and pointy little man boobs, or moobs as they're known in comedy circles. And I'm not a fan of the moobs. I don't really worry about the belly so much, but I didn't realize until recently that that most guys, you know, once you get into your late 30s and early 40s and you start getting that big round belly, it doesn't matter how much you exercise, you still got that big round belly there. That's actually visceral fat, and visceral fat's really bad. The visceral fat is the stuff that collects around your organs on the inside, and you can't pinch it. The fat that you can pinch on your belly is a different type of fat. Visceral fat is the stuff that can cause like squashing of your organs, and can lead to all sorts of problems. That's the stuff that you need to get rid of, and that builds up over years from poor diet, too much alcohol, too much sugar, you know, too many bad fats, not enough exercise, all of that sort of stuff. And that's why blokes find it really hard to shift their belly fat, because they think that the way to get rid of your belly and get your 6-pack back is just to do loads of sit-ups and start eating more salads, and that's not what it is. You need to completely change your diet and do a hell of a lot more exercise, because it's a lot harder to get rid of that internal fat than it is the external fat. But what I've noticed is that the old moobs have started to go back to like a normal shape, not these pointy little witches' boobies. And yeah, my belly's starting to go down. Oh, there's a little bit of an outline on the sides, because I've been doing heaps of cardio lately as well, like really hard cardio. The stuff that makes you want to cry and vomit at the end of the session. But yeah, the old belly's starting. It's still round, and it's going to take a bit of work, but it's starting to get a little bit of definition around the outside now, depending on if the light's right. So that's a good thing. Oh yeah, one of the big downsides to drinking and having hangovers is that you crave fatty and salty food, and I don't eat a lot of junk food anymore. Yeah, hardly at all, really. You know, no hash browns from McDonald's, no cheeky hamburgers and cheeseburgers here and there. Probably the worst thing that I eat at the moment is just, I don't know, like deep fried chips if I ever go to the pub, and get, like, on Palmer night or steak night always comes out with chips. They're probably the worst things to eat at the moment, and chocolate, and the tiramisu that I had the other night. So I seem to have traded booze for chocolate, and I don't know which one's worse because yeah, chocolate's really bad. I never used to have a sweet tooth, but yeah, it seems to have taken place, and some nights I crave it, and it's really bad. I don't know. Yeah, I seem to have traded one addiction for another. This is a big one. So the main thing that I've noticed is I have way more energy than before, way more energy and way more motivation, and it's having a really positive effect on my week to week, because especially going to the gym, and I've talked about this before, like I have a really expensive gym membership because it's all like group classes every day, and I used to be horrified by group classes, but they actually the best thing in the world. You have to book a class, and then you have to show up and you have to do the class. There's no not showing up, because if you don't show up, you get charged. If I wanted to go to a class, the only days that they don't have classes on Sundays, so I could go 6 days a week if I wanted to. And before, when I was drinking, I used to say, well, I'm not gonna drink tonight, because then I won't have a hangover tomorrow and I can go and do my gym class. So the gym used to be a good reason to not drink the night before. But then what I started doing was drinking the night before and then going and doing a gym session, like a gym class, with a hangover, and it was just completely pointless, because I didn't have any energy at all, and I was just kind of like grinding through these sessions and not getting anything out of them, and then being unmotivated and tired and sore for another few days. So I probably pushed myself to do maybe 2 classes a week, and it's really bad. It's a real waste of money. But now I'm kind of doing the strength classes as well as the cardio classes, and I'm doing 3, maybe 4 a week, and I kind of feel like I could do 5 or maybe even 6 as well. But yeah, way more energy for the gym, and way more motivation to get out and do stuff, instead of sitting in my car and just watching YouTube for hours and hours and hours on end, waiting for the night to finish so I could start again the next day. Bad pattern to get stuck into. And I find the gym classes is actually really critical for keeping my brain in a good place, that I don't start going backwards, because on top of everything else that's been happening over the last few years, there's some really deep seated insecurity physically that's been there since, I don't know, maybe my early teens. And if I don't exercise and eat well, and then I start losing weight, and I start sort of getting out of shape and I start getting really self-conscious about how I look, and if I'm really bony, or like starting to get too skinny, and then my self-esteem starts dropping, and then the drinking starts going up, and then that whole pattern that's been going on my whole life just starts kicking into gear again. So the gym is I'm not trying to get big and muscly or anything like that. I'm just trying to stay strong and not get into my 50s or 60s with back problems or knee problems. So I'm trying to like keep on top of it now, so that I'm in good shape later on. And even if I always just have this little round belly and never get abs, it doesn't really matter. It's just what's going on in my head is more important than anything else. If you keep your brain healthy, your brain will keep your body healthy, and if you look after your body will help look after your brain. The two of them kind of work together, and it's really easy to say at the moment, because I'm feeling good and I'm looking after myself and stuff like that. But it's so easy to slip back into the patterns. And this is not the first time I've had periods where I've just been binging on the booze and tricked myself really badly, and then just stopped and had a few months off. This is not the first time I've done this. So the hard part with managing your drinking, if it's a problem for you, is not stopping. Like for me, it's not the stopping. I can break the habit, if I want to, and I'm really motivated to. The hard part is managing the habit when it comes calling again. Because what normally happens is you'll have a couple of months off and you'll start feeling good, and then you'll be like, yeah, maybe I will have that glass of wine. Yeah, let's go out and have a couple of whiskeys and, go and do something fun. And then you wake up with a hangover the next morning, and then the way I fix hangovers is by drinking again, and then the pattern starts straight back up again. And sometimes it's not overnight, sometimes it'll take a couple of weeks, sometimes it'll take a month, but it'll slowly creep up, and then you're back in that pattern again. And then it just becomes a big part of your life and starts taking over, and everything else that's fun and positive in your life starts taking a back seat to your boozing and your hangovers. And then you are back at square one again. For anybody who's maybe in a similar situation, if booze is a bit of a problem, a big problem or a small problem in your life, and you're kind of aware of it but don't really know what to do about it, or if you should do something about it. And I'll put some words up at the end for you, just to help give you a little bit of direction, or even just a starting point, because it's harder if you don't have anyone to talk to about it. You can sit on YouTube and watch YouTube videos for weeks on end, but it's just not the same as having a chat to someone. And I've talked to people. I've talked to an alcohol counsellor in Melbourne before, and she was really good. And I'll put her contact details up at the end as well. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Thank you for the support.